What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Gen Sports Corner, back at you for October 13th, 2019. Got a lot of things on the docket today. I want to let a couple other people get into the chat real quick. So let me go ahead and bring a couple more people in before I kick off this podcast. Got a lot on the docket today between boxing, the Flyers, the Sixers, and then obviously week 6 of the NFL season. So, a lot of things to talk about. All right, let's see what we got here. One second. So let's get to it. Boxing, what's going on? What's going on, Chris? Welcome in, man. I'm going to get to basketball and football here in a minute, but I want to start off with boxing. There's a big night of boxing last night on DAZN. If you don't have the DAZN app, make sure you go ahead and download it, get the subscription. I think it's like $10 a month. And put working on most definitely. I saw a lot of things I like from the Sixers. I'm gonna get to that soon enough. But let's start off with boxing last night. Alexander Usyk on DAZN making his heavyweight debut, and then there was a pretty good undercard. One thing I want to start off with is the 154-pound boxer Patrick Day. He suffered a pretty vicious knockout in the 10th round last night against Charles Conwell. I didn't see the fight, but I heard about it. I heard that he was in the ICU immediately after the loss. They had to take him out on the stretcher, and they had to perform emergency brain surgery. And I believe he's currently in a coma right now. I don't know if he's still in a coma, but prayers go out to him and his family, because boxing is a very brutal sport, and it's moments like these where we really can have an appreciation for what these guys put on the line every time they lace up the gloves. He had a brutal fight back in June, from what I heard, looking at his resume. He took a lot of punishment in the 10th round of that fight, even though he finished it. And then you fast forward to October, and then you take another fight that's a pretty rough fight where you're taking punishment. I hope that he recovers, but you have to really weigh the pros and the cons of stepping in that ring when you're taking shots at that rate. It's not a good thing. So prayers go out to his family. Next, let me get on to the co-main event on the card last night. Dmitry Bivol defending his WBA super light WBA 175-pound title, his light heavyweight title, against Lenin Castillo. And, nothing special here. Castillo was 20 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 15 KOs coming into this fight against Bivol, who was 16-0 with 11 KOs. And, this guy isn't really ranked high as far as my knowledge goes. Bivol did what he needed to do, but he didn't look spectacular. He looked like he was piecing the guy up, don't get me wrong, but he just looked like the smaller guy. And this guy Castillo, he looked like he was willing to take the punishment, take the sharp handwork from Bivol, just to be able to try to get into a rhythm later in the fight and try to inflict some punishment. And he had some moments here and there, but it was a pretty clear victory for Bivol. But Bivol did not look like he dominated this guy. Now, he dropped him, I believe, in the 9th or the 10th round, but Castillo was still around. He got back up. He looked fine. Fight. I like to see the opponent come out and be competitive to a certain extent. So Bivol did what he needed to do. Let's see what he does in his next fight, see if he can bounce back and have a dominant performance. But Bivol is one of the guys to see at 175 pounds. Sergey Kovalev, I don't think him or Canelo in their upcoming fight at light heavyweight, neither one of them needs any parts of Dmitry Bivol, because Bivol, he's the goods. So that's that with that fight. Bivol won by unanimous decision, 120-107, 119-108, and 119-108. So kudos to him for that victory. And then the main event, Alexander Usyk moving up from cruiserweight to go to make his debut at the heavyweight division. Now, Usyk was 16-0 with 12 KOs coming into this fight against Chaz Witherspoon, who was 30 8-3 with 29 KOs. And he was actually a last minute opponent because his the sponge or Spong, whatever his name was, he tested positive for a banned substance, and his B sample came back negative. So he pretty much got screwed out of the fight. I don't know what the circumstances were surrounding that situation. And this guy Witherspoon took the fight on a week's notice. So he got stopped. He got TKO'd. He got stopped in round 7 by Usyk. Usyk came out looking sharp, throwing crisp combinations, and he controlled the fight from pillar to post. He did what he was supposed to do, and he looked really good. But you have to give Witherspoon credit for being able to come out and at least make some decent account of himself with only having 7 days to prepare for the fight. That's actually pretty impressive when you think about it. He didn't even have 2 weeks. He just had 1 week. He woke up. He was, bro. You still fight? Yeah, we got a fight with you against the undefeated up and coming phenom at heavyweight, Alexander Usyk. You try and make this bread. He's like, all right, when's the fight? Next Saturday. Okay, let's do it. If you paying me. That's pretty much what happened. So, kudos to him for stepping into the ring, and Usyk did his thing and got the victory the way that we expected him to. So we'll see what Usyk does moving forward, who his next opponent is going to be at heavyweight. I want to see Usyk have at least another 3 fights before he's in a conversation to go against guys like Deontay Wilder or Luis Ortiz or Fury and those guys. So we'll see what's what. And then last point on boxing, the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz, it may not be happening because Andy Ruiz is actually thinking about participating in the 2020 Olympics for boxing, and the WBC was not very happy about that at all. They don't like seeing their investment being put at risk by competing in the Olympics. And they're saying, word on the street is that they're saying that if he competes in the Olympics, they will take the title from him and serve him a 2-year suspension from boxing. So we'll see what happens. But this fight is not a guaranteed thing right now. I don't know what's going to happen with that fight, but that's something that's big news to follow right now in terms of boxing and the heavyweight division. We'll see what's going to happen with that title, because it can be a vacant title just like that, and then who knows who's going to fight to scrap for that title. It could end up being Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, or Joshua and Usyk, or Wilder and whoever the hell they decide to allow to fight for that WBC belt. So we'll see what happens there. So with that being said about boxing, let me move over to the Flyers very, very quickly. Flyers played last night in Vancouver, went out to Vancouver as part of their road trip, played a good game in overtime in a shootout, 3-2. I didn't see the game, but saw the highlights. I saw some of the first period. They were down 1-0, and they did a good job of staying composed and really grinding their way back into that game. I was really impressed to see how they responded with their first bit of adversity this season, and they responded well on the road and really had a chance to win that game late in the game. Carter Hart, he gave up 2 goals, but then he really turned it on, locked down the net, and didn't let a puck get past them until the shootout in overtime. So, they lost the game, but at least they came out with a point with the overtime loss, and we'll see what they do next moving forward. But I do like what the offense has been able to do as a whole in these past 3 games. So they put up 10 goals, so 3.3 goals a game so far. Not bad. We'll see how they do moving forward. Now let me move on to the Sixers. Sixers, they're 100 to 87 over the Charlotte Hornets. Ben Simmons, that's what I'm gonna focus on. I really like some of the things he did. He looked smooth in transition, very good passing, very precise. He was able to get to the rim at will whenever the hell he wanted to. He had one particular sequence where he came down and he called off the screen, went to his left, then spun back to his right and took it to the hoop. Like he can get anywhere he wants to on the floor whenever he wants to. And then he on another fast break, and then drove to his left, stepped back, spun around, and pulled up for the mid range jumper, knocked it down, nothing but net. Looked very good. I'm very impressed at the levels to his game that he's showing. He's showing that he's making progressions in every aspect of his game. Obviously, the 3-pointer that we saw against the Long Lions the night, the game before, and then the transition game, and then the mid-range game in this showdown against the Hornets. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of him. And Al Horford, again, another solid showing by Al Horford. Al Horford, the defense time, and then just coming down in transition, he's sitting at the top of the key, top of the 3-point line, and you pass it out to him, boom, he's able to knock down a three just like that, and it just stretches out the defense, puts so much stress on the defense. It changes a lot of things for the Sixers. So I'm really excited. I need to make it out to a preseason game, but I'm really excited about what they're doing and what their potential is this season, because they show a lot of versatility at all positions on the court. So really good things that I'm seeing from the Sixers. And then lastly, let me move on to NFL Week 6 action. And I want to kind of dive into this first game since it's going on right now between the Panthers. I'm looking at it right now, the Panthers and the Buccaneers. And something bizarre just happened in this game, and I've never seen this. So Christian McCaffrey ran out of bounds with, I think, it might have been like 58 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And the Buccaneers didn't have any timeouts. And it's like, dude, you got to stay in bounds. You're giving them a chance to get for you to punt to them and them to have a chance to come back down and score. If they fail to drive down the field, go 3 and out. Well, they don't go 3 and out, but maybe they did. Anyways, they get caught in the 3rd and 20 at the throw it away, and it's 4th and 20 from their own 25, and they have 3 false start penalties from the special teams, and they're backed up, and then they punt it to the Panthers. Panthers fair catch the ball at the 49-yard line of the Buccaneers, and apparently there's a rule that if you fair catch the ball right before halftime, you have the opportunity to take a free kick up in the field goal formation, and the Buccaneers lined up as if they were about to receive a kickoff. They could not rush the field goal unit, and they pretty much got a free kick from midfield. It was actually very bizarre, and he missed the kick. But the crazy thing is, he was able to kick it like a kickoff. The holder that was there to hold the ball, but that was a 56, about a 60-yard field goal. He could have made it from about 70 or 75 yards. He just missed it to the right, but he could have made that easily. It's just insane. I know the fans in London didn't know that rule. None of us knew that rule. I know Americans were sitting there confused. I was confused. I was like, what is going on? I didn't even know this was a thing. So that was just something bizarre that just happened in this game. And you'll see it on the highlights. It was just very weird. But yeah, let me get to this week 6 and give my breakdown for all the matchups and my predictions for these games. So let me bring up my my notes really quickly. So the Panthers, the 9:30 game in London, 9:30 Eastern 2 against the Bucks. I picked the Panthers to cover the spread. I'm going through my picks for the spreads. I picked them to cover the spread, and even with I'll give my predictions like this. I'll give what I picked for the spread, and then I'll give the team that I actually picked to win as well, because they're not necessarily all going to be the same. So I picked Carolina to cover the spread as well as win the game. They're favored by 2. Next on the docket, the Houston Texans playing at Kansas City in Arrowhead Stadium. Points. Now, Kansas City is coming off that loss against the Indianapolis Colts last week. The Colts did a really good job playing man defense on those receivers and just really taking away Patrick Mahomes' reads and making him very uncomfortable. And they showed a game plan for how to really slow down and stifle that Chiefs offense. So we'll see what Houston is able to do. Their defense isn't as well equipped to pull off that same thing, but they still have at least a blueprint for how to defend Patty Mahomes. I'm still going to pick Kansas City to cover the spread and win this game. Cover the spread of 4.5 points and win this game. Next on the docket, the Eagles. Well, I'll get to the Eagles last. Next on the docket, the Cincinnati Bengals playing in Baltimore. Baltimore favored by 11 points. They are very bad on offense. AJ Green is still out. Tate, good tall receiver, but I don't think he brings any type of dynamic explosiveness. But I don't know if the Ravens are necessarily going to beat them by 2 touchdowns. I could see them beating them by 10 points maybe. So I have them winning, but I don't necessarily have them covering the spread of 11 points. Next game on the docket, Seattle Seahawks playing at Cleveland. This is going to be a tougher game than people anticipate. That's the way I think it's going to play out. I don't know if the Cleveland Browns are as good as people have hyped them up to be, and I don't think they're as bad as they've played or as they've showed in the past couple of weeks. Seattle, obviously, Russell Wilson is playing at an MVP level. He's hurting people with his arm and his legs. He doesn't have much in terms of weapons, but I believe that defensive front for Seattle is going to be able to take advantage of the deficiencies on the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns. So I'm actually picking Seattle to cover the spread of 1.5 points and obviously win this game. Next on the docket, New Orleans Saints playing in Jacksonville. Jaguars favored by 1.5 points. Jaguars playing very well. Gardner Minshew, the mustache is strong. He's making throws. He's doing what he needs to do. This is actually, in my opinion, a tough matchup against that New Orleans front four. They're good against the run. I have Fournette on my fantasy team. I think he'll get his points, but I think that it's going to be tough running the ball against this New Orleans front. Even without Breeze in there, they are a tough go. And I believe that Teddy Bridgewater is getting better every week. Matter of fact, he's 3-0 as a starter with the Saints. So say what you want about them, they're winning. And this New Orleans team, they've shown how healthy Alvin Kamara is, but I still feel as though they have a good amount of firepower on offense. I actually have New Orleans covering the spread of 1.5 points, and I'm picking them to actually upset the Jaguars in Jacksonville. So that's one of my upsets of the week. Next on the docket, Washington Foreskins playing at the Miami Hurricanes. Oh, my bad, the Dolphins. Down in Miami. Washington favored by 3.5 points. They are a hot mess, after the firing of Jay Gruden, just all the turmoil down there. But Bill Callahan, the offensive coordinator, is now the interim head coach. He's a run the ball first type of guy. Adrian Peterson has definitely been talking about how he's more excited for the game plan and how they're going to utilize him this week. Miami, they're not good on defense. They're not good on offense. They're pretty much not good at anything at all. That being said, I don't know what the degrees of separation are for these two teams, but I do believe that Washington is the better team than Miami. I have Washington covering the 3.5 point spread and winning this game, and this is my best bet of the week for my Pick'ems league. Moving on, the Atlanta Falcons playing at the Arizona Cardinals. Falcons favored by 2.5 points. Arizona, definitely a young team that's growing, that's figuring out their identity on offense. On defense, Patrick Peterson is still serving the last game of his 6-game suspension. Your second cornerback has been out for the year. I forgot the name of their second cornerback, but he's been out. He's on IR. So they have 5 weeks of having the same guy start at cornerback, but still they're not that good. So they're always a liability for a good passing game, which is why I believe that the Falcons are going to come out of here with a dub because they don't run the ball. Devontae Freeman has not been doing squat on the ground. I think he has like 3.3 yards of carry this year, but they have been chucking it through the air. They have the second highest or the highest pass to run ratio in the NFL so far this season. So they're going to throw the ball around. Mohamed Sanu, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, all three of them dudes, they're going to have an opportunity to have big days. So if you have fantasy football team and you play fantasy football, you might want to have Mohamed Sanu or one of those guys or Hooper, the tight end. He can have a big day because that Arizona defense, that's not where it's at. And if you have Larry Fitzgerald, that Atlanta defense, it ain't where it's at. Keanu Neal out. They can't stop running backs out the backfield. They can't do a lot of good things on defense. So I think it's going to be a high scoring game, but I have Atlanta covering the 2.5 point spread and coming out with the dub. Next on the docket, 4:05 game, San Francisco 49ers playing at the Los Angeles Rams. Rams favored by 3.5 points. The Rams, I believe Todd Gurley might be out. I haven't checked the injury report, but the news was leaning towards him actually being out with the thigh. Have an effective run game. They haven't been effective running the ball without him this year. Well, a healthy version of him. And that's really what their offense is predicated upon. That play action, deep passing game up the seams. That's where they kill you at. And they haven't had that running game. So their offense has suffered as a result of that. Their defense has been very hit and miss. They have a lot of talent, but they give up a lot of big plays, especially through the air. Aqib Talib out for this game. So all you have is Marcus Peters, and I think you have a Joyner back there at safety. Either way, they give up a lot of plays, whether Talib's in there or not. So this San Francisco team has quietly been one of the top teams in the NFL, and this defense is for real. That front four, that front seven, they get after people. They really get after people. They're getting sacks, they're getting pressure, and I believe that they're going to get after Jared Goff. They're going to be able to stop that run game, and they're going to be able to release the hounds on Jared Goff. I'm actually picking San Francisco to cover the 3.5 point spread and win this game as well. And this is my upset of the week. The San Francisco 49ers defeating the Los Angeles Rams. Let me know what you think about that, Chris. Next on the docket, 4:25 game. Tennessee Titans playing at Mile High Stadium against the Denver Broncos. Denver Broncos favored by 2.5. Again, Tennessee is not a great team, but they have a little more stability, in my opinion, than the Denver Broncos do. The Denver Broncos don't have a good offense. All they have is Emmanuel Sanders. They have Philip Lindsay, but Joe Flacco, he's not lighting it up this year. They have a lot of issues on defense. Bradley Chubb out for the year on IR, so now you just have one side of the field you have to worry about with Von Miller, and then the other side is nothing's happening. So man, they're having a really tough time in Denver. They're 0-5, I think, to my knowledge. I believe they're 0-5. And the Tennessee Titans, they have at least some weapons that Mariota has to throw to with Delaney Walker and Corey Davis, Derrick Henry at running back. and that defense is solid. So I'm actually picking the Titans to cover the 2.5 point spread and upset the Broncos in Denver. Then the other 425 game is the Dallas Cowgirls playing at the New York Jets. And the Dallas Cowboys are favored by, I keep messing up. Dallas Cowgirls are favored by 8.5 points against the Jets, with Sam Darnold coming back from mononucleosis or whatever the hell he had for the past 12 weeks or whatever. The Jets, they're not as bad as they've played this year, but I don't know if they have enough just with Sam Darnold coming back to beat this Dallas. Have a good front seven. They have a good defense. Dak Prescott, I think he's going to bounce back from that Green Bay game last week. Zeke Elliott is going to be able to run the ball, but he's going to have a tough time against this Jets front. If there's one thing that they actually do well, is stop the run. They did a good job against Jordan Howard last week, and they did a good job against the opponent before the Eagles the week before. So I don't know if Zeke will have a huge game, but I think that the Dallas offense will be able to move the ball on the Jets. And I have Dallas covering the 8.5 point spread and winning this game at New York. And then for the Sunday night and the Monday night game, you have the Pittsburgh 820 at the LA Chargers. Chargers favored by 6.5 points. Now, Pittsburgh has been a lot better on defense ever since they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. And on offense, obviously, there was the big injury, the concussive hit last week against Mason Rudolph by Earl Thomas. And, hopefully Rudolph is doing better, but I don't know what their third string. So I don't know what Pittsburgh's offense is going to look like this week. I think the Chargers, their defense is middle of the pack, but this is a good opportunity for them to possibly feast on a third string quarterback that may not have the skill set of a Mason Rudolph. The Chargers offense, they have Melvin Gordon back to pair with Eckler, and then a really good matchup with Keenan Allen against some of those secondary members of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going with the Chargers to cover the spread and win this game. And then the last game of the week, the Green Bay Packers playing at home against the Detroit Lions. Packers favored by 4.5 points on Monday Night Football. Detroit has been middle of the pack. They're not great, but they're nothing to sleep on at all. They have been playing solid on defense against some good teams. And they've on offense, they have some weapons. They're inconsistent. That's always been a problem. They're inconsistent, but they have the weapons and the potential to really surprise you. If they're able to jump out on you early, then you can get in trouble against this team. Matt Stafford, especially in games where he's playing from behind, he's able to just sit back and just say, all right, I just know I have to sling it because that's what that offense wants to do anyway. They get Kerryon Johnson out there in the passing game along with Marvin Jones Jr. and Kenny Galladay. And they're able to do some things. I don't know if Hawkinson's going to have a big day at tight end, but I think that Galladay and Marvin Jones Jr., they might be able to do some things on offense. But this Green Bay Packers team, even without Devontae Adams, I believe that they're going to be able to move the ball on this Detroit defense enough to pull out a win. I'm going to have them barely covering the spread and winning at home against the Detroit Lions. Then lastly, let me get to the Philadelphia Eagles. 20-7. Panthers over the Bucks right now. Let me lastly get to the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Minnesota Vikings. We're playing out there in the Dome out in Minneapolis. And, man, we're going back out there, and we're going to see what Vikings fans are all about because I think there's a nice little rivalry brewing between us going back from the NFC Championship game to of us playing at Minnesota for the Super Bowl and then winning, and then all the backstory behind that with the fans being upset about how some of them were treated when it came to Philadelphia. think there's a nice little rivalry that's brewing, just low key. So this matchup is going to be a tough one. You got that Vikings defense, they're for real. They ain't coming to play no games. They hit, they're fast, and they stay on you. Xavier Howard, Xavier Rhodes. I believe the Vikings are going to man him up on Alshon Jeffrey. They're going to then try to say the rest of you guys try to beat us. That's the game plan. If I'm the Vikings, I think that's what's going to happen. I believe that Carson Wentz is an X factor because he can use his legs and use guys like Miles Sanders and out the backfield and Dallas Goedert. They're going to come out. The Eagles are going to come out in a lot of 12 personnel, one running back, two tight ends, and really try to create those matchups against those linebackers. That's where I believe the Eagles are going to make their bread and butter at. Create those matchups with the linebackers, and then slowly try to win one-on-ones here and there with Alshon Jeffrey underneath. On offense, the Vikings, they have weapons. Dalvin Cook, second, in my opinion, right behind Christian McCaffrey. You can kind of interchange them 1 and 2, 1A, 1B. But Dalvin Cook, that's where their offense is running through right now because Kirk Cousins, he's inconsistent, and you can see it with the friction and the tension that's developing between him and his wide receivers out, Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. You know, you go on a podcast with Thielen and apologize for your play, and then Diggs is coming out and seeming kind of hypersensitive to his situation contract-wise and with the way the team's going with the offense. I believe that the miscues that we're seeing from Kirk Cousins is starting to take a toll on the relationship between him and his receivers. And Dalvin Cook is the best thing they have going on right now because that offensive line, I think they can run block, but pass blocking wise, they got issues. And this is a very good week for the Eagles to continue upon their feasting on that defensive line and coming out and getting some more sacks. I don't know about 10 sacks, but I would like to see 3 to 5 sacks today against that Vikings offensive line. I'd like to see Fletcher Cox play a big role over the past 2 weeks. I need to see Fletcher Cox have a big game. I believe that the Eagles are going to cover the spread and upset the Vikings at Minneapolis. I could see this game going either way, but I have a feeling that the Eagles are going to be able to come out with this win because they match up well against their offensive line. And that's the main and only reason why I have the Eagles barely winning this game because the other matchups, they're so even. You know, their defense going against our receiving core, our secondary going up against their receiving core, even though the receivers are better than our secondary members. Kirk Cousins is just, he's not been playing well this year. So that's the way I see this game playing out. That's it for the podcast this week. Let me know what you guys think. Currently, the Panthers are up 26-7. Damn. This is turning into a blowout really fast. So let me know what your thoughts are on all those games. Let me know what your thoughts are on basketball, hockey, boxing, and leave them in the comments below. As always, I appreciate you guys. Sunday. Till next time. Peace.